So the next concept is still on list manipulation, but this time around we want to add something a little called the keys. So it's always advisable that when you are manipulating list, when you're working with the lists and trying to display the list like the way we have done here and displayed a list of students or list of users, it is always good to use the key, the use of keys when manipulating of list. So what keys does that keys allow you to keep track of elements in the list. So it allows you to keep track of each of the element, and in that manner, if an item in a list is updated or removed, then only that particular item will be rendered will be re-rendered again instead of rendering the whole items in the list. Alright, and this makes your application faster and makes it more user the user is able to have a better experience while they're using your application. You see, what happens here is that you might see this list is being displayed so fast because we don't have a long list. But in a real world application, take an example of TikTok or maybe even the Facebook post. When you log in, there are list of so many videos which have been posted in a day, and those lists, there are so many items inside. So if you're not very careful about manipulating your list, your application is going to be very slow and is going to be hanging, and then the user is going to have a bad experience. So what normally happens is if you display the list like the way we are displaying it here, then once one of the item in this list changes, let's say for example the value, let me go back to the code, the first item here, Samuel, changes in the course of display. After displaying the list, this value has changed, then the page will have to the React will have to re-render this list again, and every item in this list has to be redisplayed or re-rendered again, and that is going to make your application so slow. So to avoid that and to make sure that only that particular one item which has changed is the one that has been rendered again, we make use of keys. We make use of keys. Alright, and how do we make use of keys? It will be like each of the item in a list must have a unique key, a unique value that will identify it. And you can see below the attached code sample which demonstrates how we can work with list. So you can see we have a list of students where this list is not a list of just strings. You see the list we have here, the list we have here is a list of students. I mean list of strings. So we only have a symbol list which has a name of the student. So this name is a string basically, and we can say this is a string, this is a list of string. But in this other list here, we are having a list of objects. So we have an array. See, this is an array, but within that array there is an object. So we have object 1, we have object 2, we have object 3. So it is basically a list of objects. Each of the student has an ID, for example. So we have an ID 101, the name here, an ID 102, the name is here, an ID 103, the name is here. So you can see that each of these item, list item, or each of these object has a unique ID, and therefore we can make use of that unique ID as a key to manipulate this list to avoid rendering the whole list once just one item has changed. All right, so if you get this, and instead I want to replace it with whatever we have here. All right, so this time we can say we have a list of students, which maybe are, or let's say list of posts, list, call it posts, and here we have post list, post list. So we have the post one, the first post with an ID name came from Patrick, the second post came from John, the third post came from Sam. Then we are going to display these posts in a web page, like the way we are displaying it here. How do we display it? We are going to display it using the list tag, which is UL. Then for us to be able to display it, we must loop through, or we must iterate through this list, and the best way to iterate through it is by using the map function. So the map function is still applied here. So we're going to say post list dot map, let me say my posts, post list dot map post. So for each post, display that post in a list item. So we're going to say post dot id, and then post the poster, maybe the who's the poster, so we say post dot name. I'm getting that? So when you say post dot name, we are accessing this name here. So you can see here we are using the key ID, or we might have, let's say this object has another property here. Maybe here we have we could say owner ID. The owner ID maybe is 2, and this one here has an owner ID of maybe 3. This one has an owner ID of maybe 4. So you can still see that even this property called owner ID, it is still unique. So we can as well use it as a key instead of ID. So it doesn't matter really which one we use, as long as that property is unique in each of those objects. All right, so we cannot use name because name may not be unique always. There might be 2 people with the same name, so we look for the property which is unique in those items, and then we use it as a key value. So this way, when we use the key, if you look at this one and the first example that we had, we were just displaying without using the key, but now here we are using the key is equal to post. So this way, once any of the item changes here, let's say the first object changes, maybe from Patrick to someone, we only make sure that we only update that particular list item and render that list item instead of rendering all the list items again, and that way we make our application more faster. So let me save these changes, and now when you go back to our page, you can see there is an error here, export default import users. So we have not exported it here, so we must make sure that we add export default users, or even posts. It's supposed to be post because we change it from users to posts. So we are exporting this. So after exporting it, we go to the navigation bar. Let's change this text, this path to posts. and also this one too is a new posts. And then we should also go to the upload.js. We make sure we import the correct thing. So here, instead of importing users, we are now importing the post, because we changed that component from users to posts. All right, and then we're going to configure it here to posts, and also the path slash posts. All right, so now it should display. Now we have new post link added here. So when you click on it, then you should see my posts, and they're displayed in a list. Basically the same display, the same thing, but the way it works in the background, it makes your application more faster. So that's all about working with the list, and how to use a combination of keys in order to make your list display faster. So I will pause here and give room for you to ask question where it is not clear, before we can go to the next concept, the React forms. Anyone with a question? So you might see this too basic. Here we are not adding any styling, it is just too basic. But that is not our focus now. Our focus is to get the concept right. Then, of course, now when you are developing your own site, you can now be able to play around with CSS to be able to have the best look and the best design of that page. So you can even decide to display this in cards, so that they appear good and have all those funny kind of styles. Alright, so if there is no question, let me pause first. Still, if you have a question, you can still ask even after stopping the recording.